If I can, hopefully, I can see what we're doing here.
There we go.
All right, it's not showing alive yet, but I think we are live. If anybody's in chat, anybody want to let us? Nope, nobody in chat right now. We are 13 seconds live. All right, so hey guys, I'm Boot. We are in New Jersey, and today with me is one of my great friends, Kyle from Connecticut, who is a host for On the Brain and A for Abled. Kyle, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you at?
Yeah, you can find me on the following platforms: Instagram at Kyle Eric 3233. You can also catch On the Brain at On the Brain Entertainment on the same platform. You can catch me on TikTok at Kyle Eric 3233. I just talk about mental health and just random stories and and stuff there. So check that out. And for On the Brain and A for Able, you can catch it anywhere you get your podcast fix. So yeah, I just wanted to cut that short because otherwise we'd be here all day. But we're everywhere.
And of course, everybody, as always, with me is my lovely wife, owner and operator of our sponsor of the episode, Alias of Paper and Ink. When you need quick
Hello.
editing at a great rate, get the best in print and/or digital media recording, editing, and formatting, and more. Get your project ready for the world. Experience in an assortment of amazing ways and start where all the great stories start with the one and only Paper and Ink. You can find us on the web at paperandinkedediting.square.site. So, Allie, why don't you say hi to everybody and let everybody know what places they can find you at on the interwebs?
So for Paper and Ink, you can find me on Instagram at Paper and Ink Editing, all one word. Facebook, Paper and Ink Editing, and for personal, you can only find me on TikTok, and that's Ali underscore Sams.
Beautiful. So, I think first and foremost today, we are going to explore some of the news and topics of what is going on in the world right now. If you see, I have this great little background because we are going to talk a little bit about the thing that shall not be named, and that is COVID. I don't know why everybody's so afraid to talk about COVID these days, but when you end up with COVID, you end up part of an elite club that is so secret you will never know until you are a part of it that everybody has COVID. So today, what I want to do is I want to have Kyle start us off. We're going to do, I believe, debate style, where we're going to do some timed things and some other things. But I want to have Kyle start off with some of the news stories that we have been talking about recently because there's been a lot of different things that you've been sending me in relation. And we've done this episode about 3 times now. Unfortunately, we have
Yeah, and since
things
then,
change
of
so
course, the
fast.
news cycle, the news cycle, it keeps extending and changing each time. And every time I pulled something new up, because I'm always getting notifications about it, every time I send something to you,
Uh-huh.
something changes like the next day,
Right, of
right?
course.
Or something is added to that the next day.
Right,
So two things I wanted to focus on that have not really changed, that are that are still pretty fresh,
right.
are the fact that they are currently working on a specific vaccine for Omicron, because the little bugger keeps bypassing the first. I'm gonna At this point I'm gonna say the first generation vaccines, because because they've done booster, vaccine booster. Now we have Omicron, and just at the beginning of the month they were talking about a new variant that they discovered in France that may be on its way here. I don't know if it has a designated name yet, but given the fact that they've been using the Greek alphabet for this, it's only a matter of time until we hear it.
Right.
But I wanted to get your thoughts on that. But before we get into it, and as I set my timer, um,
Right.
yeah, because every time we did this, we all got so passionate about it. No arguing, whatever, but we all talked over each other. So
Oh, I see
Um,
somebody is live on with us. I wanted to say, hey, what's up,
It,
and thanks for joining.
yeah, thanks for joining.
If everything
it
looks
might be
good here, just
me.
shoot us a little message and just let us know everything's good.
It might be
Hmm.
me.
Oh,
I'm
are you
in it
watching
on
too?
my phone.
How do
Uh,
we sound and look? Is everything
well, I muted us.
Oh,
Like I made it like no sound just because I was, like, you know, I just wanted to see if there was, and I shared the link on Facebook
oh,
Hmm.
okay,
so that
excellent.
people can watch if they want. But I'll get out of it. So
No worries, no worries. So yeah, anybody watching on the replay though, thank you guys for watching, and go ahead and be part of the conversation, be proactive, jump on in here and leave us some comments. Whether you're with us live and you want to get involved in the conversation now, or if you'd like to get involved in the conversation on the replay, please leave a comment down below and just get involved. It's very important to be involved in these kinds of things.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
and I think before we start, I think we just all want to say that these are our opinions and our experiences. This is not us telling anybody what to do if they're presented with having COVID or what their plans are. These are just our opinions, and we're just sharing them of what we experienced. And, so, but if you feel opposite of us, please comment respectfully and join in the conversation like Keith said, because we are all willing to hear everybody's story no matter what it is, as long as it's done respectfully.
Hmm.
Absolutely,
That's it.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So Kyle, did you have more of the news stories you wanted to talk about in depth, or?
The third one I found that was interesting. Now you know about the antibody treatments they're trying to implement, right?
Is this the monococcal antibodies?
I believe, yeah, I believe so.
So I'm gonna be donating blood for that soon because I
Okay.
found out once you have COVID, you could donate blood and give your antibodies at that point to somebody else who may end up in the hospital to get treated early.
Oh, you know what? That's beautiful. But I read something to the effect of, I forgot what area it was. I want to say Florida, where they canceled it. I could be wrong. I gotta double check because it has been a few days since I saw it.
Okay.
But what do you think of that? I would do it. I can't do it because I'm underweight.
Right, right, of
So
course.
yeah,
Um, I know, so yeah, there are some conditions, some stipulations, depending. Um, if I know there used to be one regarding tattoos and stuff,
there
but
used to be one regarding tattoos.
I don't think that's the
Um,
case anymore.
And
I
I
know they're pretty
believe
desperate
for
now.
a while there was also one depending on your sexuality, and I felt that one was very uh, like it's just like honestly speaking as a straight person, I felt that to be very discriminatory.
Right.
Um, you
Yeah,
know,
there was one. If you were gay, you were automatically not able to give or donate blood. I
Wow.
don't know if that's still a thing because I had looked on the American Red Cross,
Yeah.
looking to see like what the requirements were to donate blood.
Hmm.
And the only thing I saw really is that you have to be a certain weight
hmm
minimum, and you
hmm
also have to be healthy.
Right.
And those are really all the requirements I saw on their website. So I don't know if it's different when you go there and they do like a more thorough, like I guess form that you have to fill out when you're
well, if
there.
they have
But
changed, the stipulations, I have to say, thank you for moving forward because those other rules were that like
Exactly.
those
It's
other rules were
progress.
so yeah.
yeah,
It's a real shame sometimes that the backward steps that we take as a society and then move forward, very small increments, as we take these huge steps backwards.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and one of the ways I feel, one of those being right now is a lot of what I'm seeing is, these mandates for vaccines being a thing.
Mhm,
I think that the main problem there is that, of course, we've talked multiple times about how important choice is in
mhm,
everybody's lives, and I'm not necessarily Republican or Democrat or anything like that. I'm more on the side of libertarian, where I believe in the freedom to make your own choices and
mhm,
that, to try to fight government overreach at the same time. And I feel like
Mm.
that's what that is. I feel like that's government overreach. Um, and as I was saying, as a vapor, I have seen the government mismanage a lot of situations with vaping and then lie and try to fearmonger people into thinking that it's a terrible thing when it's really not. It's, in all honesty, in every study, 95% safer than smoking, but yet the government is telling people that it's terrible for you and will kill you and will give you heavy metal toxicity and such, whatever things. So, as coming from that background into the pandemic, watching the way that they managed it, um, I just kind of laughed at it. Honestly, I was a little bit like, okay, well, I just watched them mismanage this thing and claim that it was an epidemic when it
Hmm.
wasn't, and now we have an actual pandemic that we need to be fully aware of, what's happening in the entire world, not
Yeah.
just what's happening in America, but what's happening in the entire world. And the failure to do that is, I think, what I have the biggest problem with. So I think at this time I'm going to pass over to you, Allie. What are your thoughts on the mandates and things like that that they have been trying to do on and off, and the vaccine
Uh,
in general?
um, I don't. I'm not like completely. How do I put this? To me, the mandates, some of them I think are necessary, and some of them I think are not fair in the sense with people should have choices to make, especially when it comes to being vaccinated or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to me, like, I don't, again, like Keith said, I don't really align up with a political party either at all. I do, have my own views. And I think the biggest mandate I have an issue with is the vaccine, because I don't mind wearing a mask in public, in a store if it's required to. Uh, does it suck? Yeah, it does. I don't like wearing a mask, but if that's what I need to do to protect somebody else, I would. And so the fact that I'm not vaccinated, so people might wonder, well, hey, you would wear a mask to protect people. Why won't you get vaccinated to protect people?
Right.
And I guess my response to you would just be I I'm not confident in the vaccination that we have currently. Um but just for me, like, I just, I was told by my doctor not to get it, but that was a conversation between me and my doctor. I would love to hear another medical perspective about it, because I do hear them and it's hard to see what people are telling the truth, because there's so much misinformation out there, like, with everything.
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
and the fact that they put like the vaccinated and unvaccinated at like against each other, which I'm such a pro your like choice for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is for you. If it's right for you to be vaccinated, if you it's right for you not to be vaccinated, whatever it is, like, that is just the type of person I am, and that's just my views. Like,
Hmm.
so I feel like they're trying to, like, I would never not see my family because they're not vaccinated.
Right.
That's just me. Like, I just, for that to be like the narrative that's out there, I think that's the biggest issue I have as far as mandates. Like the mask mandate, I mean, if it helps protect people, sure. I mean, I've seen studies where it says it doesn't work, and then I've seen studies where it does work. And I was watching a doctor the other day say, well, they were calling out Dr. Oz because apparently Dr. Oz made he's like not doesn't agree with wearing a mask. And the doctor was like, well, Dr. Oz, you wear a mask if you're a surgeon, you wear a mask, and that protects your germs from getting into the patient that you're cutting open.
Okay,
Obviously we
I'm gonna
know
stop
that.
you right there, Al, because we hit well over time here, for that. So, Kyle, I'm gonna go to you about this, with the quick rebuttal of the fact that, from what I'm gathering from you, Al, it's just that the main thing is right now nobody really knows. Doctors don't even know what to tell their patients half the time. Would you agree that that's pretty much what you were saying there? Like what the sum of what you're what you're getting at there with all the doctors and stuff. Like doctors don't actually know this, right?
I just think there's so many differing opinions that doctors are having their own opinions, and there's not like an actual like
Standard.
rule set. There's no
Yeah.
standard set for anything.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things. So Kyle, I'm gonna give
Mhm.
you three on that topic there.
All right.
Kyle, what do you think about the current situation of vaccines and the politics and doctors and news out there right now?
Personally, I'm with Allie. Do what you feel is right.
Hmm.
Um, do what you feel is right. I was one of those people that I wasn't on the, like, no offense to anybody, okay, but so many conspiracy theories were coming out during the time this vaccine was being rolled out, and they're still being turned out today. I heard everything from, this is a pandemic for, for population control. 5G is the cause for, for coronavirus. The this was going to magnetize you. This magnetize you somehow. They put a microchip in you. I've heard all of them, and there's more. I shouldn't even say all of them. I should just say I've heard a lot. You know what I'm saying? I even had conversations with family members about it.
Right.
And the only thing I can say is, do what you feel is right, because then we also have to keep in mind that these doctors and the people that are coming up with these policies, they are only human. Okay, they are only human. I saw a report the other day of a family who got too much of the vaccine, and now and they may be having issues. One of my nephews got vaccinated. He's 9 years old right now, and he was having some weird side effects.
Oh wow.
But also keeping in mind that the little guy has other issues. Plus, he takes like one, or I don't know, like if he takes any like prior medications or anything. Point is, regardless of how you feel, these things should be taken into account as to why, as to what the effects may be in the vaccine. Like, everybody's like, oh, I don't know what's in it, and I was right there. But then I had to realize that I've had surgeries. They've told me to take pills for like pills for like painkillers and stuff like that. I took that no question,
Right.
right? I took all of that no question, because the doctors and nurses were saying, do this to help with the pain.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I've done everything when I'm sick. I've paid attention to what my parents say and what their parents say helped work for them, and it's like, the only thing that I see that's different is we are all going through this at the same time.
Right.
COVID in one way, shape, or form has existed, but to this point,
Right.
this is the only thing that is new. And it's 2 years. It's 2 years later. Pretty much 2 years later. We're in 2022. This started in 2019.
Hmm.
We forget that it started in 2019, hence the 19 over COVID.
Right.
So I just want people to know that whatever you decide to do, vaccine, no vaccine, things are continuing to change, and we can't constantly just, and doctors have said this, they're not going to be able to have boosters every 6 months.
Right.
There's got to be something that's going to change. And there have been studies that have suggested that natural immunity would work, coming from the CDC. So, with all that in mind, I say, do whatever you feel is right. Rest in peace to the ones that that haven't made it,
Hmm.
and we will just continue to soldier on. I'm not over here trying to tell you to do it or not to do it. I'm telling you what I'm doing for myself. I'm not getting vaccinated because I am not comfortable with it. That is my only gripe. If you feel like you have to do it for you and your family, I ain't gonna chastise you for it, because we're only human,
Hmm.
right? And we're
Mhm.
trying to get through this the best that we can. Eventually, this is going to be something we look back at and say, regardless of what you feel about it, This is the moment we went through, and we all went through it together, regardless of where you come from. It's affecting everybody.
That's true. Now,
Yeah.
I do want to pass over to Allie. So you basically you mentioned the vaccine, and you think, of course, you believe in choice. You're pro-choice when it comes to the vaccine. You're obviously not an anti-vaxxer or an anti-medicine at all. You know, um, it's not so much holistics or anything like that that pushes you towards that answer, but it is common sense, unfortunately, where we have to have this mentality that like, of course, like there are, important steps for mankind that they're taking. But at the same time, I don't trust this right now because of whatever reason. Um, do you have a specific like set of reasons, or do you just like want to leave it pretty general, like as in you don't trust it right now?
I don't even think, yeah, I don't think there's really a specific reason. I think it's more so like it's just I'm not comfortable with the data that they have provided for the vaccine. I feel like it's not efficient enough because they keep saying you need more vaccines to cover yourself for COVID, but it's not a cure. And I'm not saying that vaccines are meant to cure disease. I'm not saying that at all. They've been very open and honest that this was just meant to keep you out of the hospital and have severe side effects if you get COVID and you have those severe side effects. But a lot of people take it as it's a cure and they're not going to get COVID or they're not going to spread it. So, but for me, I just think it's just not something I'm willing to do right now because, like Kyle said, just I'm not comfortable right now. Um, there's no like specific reason.
Um,
Um,
yeah, no, I think you're definitely right on that. I think that is a huge thing. I think that is, honestly, I feel the same way in the way that it is not a cure. I know a lot of places aren't really pushing it as a cure, but one of the things that gets me the most is that in New Jersey, they actually tell you stop the spread, get vaccinated, keep 6 feet away, wear a mask. And the only things that are legitimate on that whole list of things are staying away and wearing a mask. And like, vaccination isn't going to keep you from getting it. There's no such thing now as this mass. What was it they were calling it? The mass
Herd
um,
immunity.
herd immunity. Yes. So they've basically proven that herd immunity is BS. You know what I mean? Like you can be vaccinated. There, like I said, there was a country that was 140% vaccinated because they had out of the country workers come in and the government vaccinated. So with 140% vaccination rate, these people are still in the like high thousands of cases in a place of only close to 40,000 people. You know what I mean? So it does kind of show, that yes, it's not a cure, but it does have its benefits for some to keep them out of the hospital, to keep them from it being a mortality, and I think that's really good as far as studies go because that's probably the most vaccinated place right now is that small country of almost 40,000 people. Um, but also the other problem is the heart damage that can be done. Now I've seen up to 11% with the vaccine, 5% per booster, which means that in a very short time, if we continue the way we're going with boosters, like you were saying, they're not going to be able to give the world boosters forever. You know what I mean? And at some point, I feel this is going to become a money thing, and I feel like it's more expensive to treat it as to where they'll get a refund, not a refund, but like they'll get money back eventually if people have to pay for boosters. They'll make their money back. I feel like it becomes more about the economy than it does about the betterment of mankind. So I'm gonna pass that over to you, Kyle, and see where you stand on that right now.
Currently, I'm as we're talking. I found it. Once again the news cycle continues to change, and I am trying my best to at least stay on top of different stories. The only thing that gets me about that is there are, you have to double check, triple check, quadruple check
Right.
your sources. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean?
I mean,
Um,
I don't present anything as fact if I don't have
no,
like the information in front of me, but I will present it
right,
as what I've been, what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard, and not
right,
just from one source, but from at least three different sources, just to confirm that, like it's legitimate.
right.
Before I do, before I mention it as fact, like I did with those percentages. I've
Hmm.
seen that in a few different, a couple different articles, a video that was by the
Yep.
same scientists that talked about the study they're doing, on this small country.
Hmm. I
So,
I'm looking at I'm at the UN news site right
mhm,
now. Not too long ago, I saw, actually, matter of fact, a couple days ago, I saw some studies being done in South Africa. What they're seeing in South Africa is a significant drop in the COVID cases right now.
really,
Right? They in other places in other places in the world, aside from people masking up, it's business as usual.
right,
Right? Not every place in the world is having the same issue that America's having. You
right, of
know,
course,
so that right there, like, I try to look for the silver lining and everything, but I'm not trying to be like,
right,
you got to be positive and stuff all the time.
right, right.
I'm also realistic, but I do believe that we will get through this. Now, as far as South Africa is concerned,
Uh huh.
according to a report done from just about a week ago, the 16th, their death rates due to COVID have dropped by 8%.
Wow.
Oh,
Is
wow.
there what are they figuring that to? Like the weather or
It could be now. See, this
the
whole thing
population,
could
how
be
they interact, or
it could be environmental. I mean,
yeah.
look. I mean, look at it. Most when the, during the summertime,
Mm,
COVID was still in the news, but the tolls and the cases would drop.
right,
Hmm.
Right?
right, of
That's
course.
why some people were thinking that we'll get through this just like we get through the flu every year, right?
Right,
But
right,
then when it started getting colder, then cases went right back up.
right. But also
I'm
you have
thinking it
people congregating inside.
right. And
Sorry,
also,
didn't mean to cut you
no,
off.
no, no, you're completely right about that, bro. You are completely right about that. When I was in Florida, when I was in Florida, yes, the cases were there, but they weren't as significant as where say where you guys are in Jersey and stuff
Right,
like that, right? So people were encouraged, because it's Florida, you're encouraged to be outside more. You're
right,
out it's like 80 something. It was like 80 something degrees most of the time where I was, when I was there. And when we get to our actual experience, I'll go into more detail. But
right,
I do find it interesting how the environment in which you interact is affecting. Well, it's affected everything,
right. Of
but
course. I mean, even the
like
way we interact has affected the rest of the world because of
yeah.
our lockdowns. The rest of the world, like the nature flourished again.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
love I love that, and we talked about that on my podcast, A for Able. You can find that anywhere you get your podcast. Shameless plug. The the fact that the fact that animals like dolphins and pandas and bears and everything, they were thriving again while we were indoors. It was like, yo, look, and even though a lot of viruses start with animals first. You know what I'm saying?
right?
Because there have been more than a few cases of animals I believe deer and
Yeah, I did
one
see
or a
something
couple
about that.
tigers. They ended up contracting COVID.
Right. I
Um,
just saw it. I think it was a dog that contracted COVID.
yep,
So,
yep. This is not like this.
I mean,
This
it's not going to be over anytime
no,
soon,
it is
but
not going to be
it's
over
going to
anytime
get
soon.
easier to deal with as, science progresses on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm hopeful for. What
Right.
I what I find very disheartening and very reminiscent of things we went throughout history is the fact that there are like it's it the division that it's caused.
Yes.
And as far as vaccines versus no vaccines, that's been going on since the flu vaccine.
Right.
You
Of
know what I'm saying?
course.
course.
Even before the flu vaccine. But that's because, once again, some people say that they don't know they're like, I don't know what's in it. It's going to cause this. It's going to cause autism. It's going to be. But also think of it this way. And this is probably from the stuff I've been seeing lately.
Right.
There is so much stuff in our food
Oh yeah.
that's banned in other countries because they've been linked to other health issues, and yet FDA over here is like, no, it's okay as long as
Yeah.
you don't have too much of it. It's
Right.
fine.
Right.
You know,
And like I
this
said,
could
I
be.
mean, I've dealt with my fair share of FDA BS
Yeah,
in the whole vaping scene, and like I said, anybody
yeah.
who's a vapor, like you learn that the government is all about money and less about having to
It's all about the bottom
deal with
line.
public health.
It's all
Um,
yeah, it's all about the bottom line. Like when I heard that people were arguing over the patent for these vaccines, I'm like, hold on, that's what you're
because
worried
that's going
about
to be
right now?
big money. That's going to be big
Who?
money at some point. You know,
Oh man,
that's what it's going to be. I'm telling you. I
no,
guarantee you
you no,
that
you no, you're
the treatment is going to be the thing that brings back the economy for them. But the question then becomes is, does the economy dictate the betterment of mankind, or does the betterment of mankind dictate where the economy goes?
it's all about lining their pockets from our perspective. So
Yeah.
much stuff has come out during the time of COVID that it's like, you know, this is why, like, when certain songs pop up on my feed, and they're not like propaganda songs or whatever, they're just talking about what's going on. I'm like, okay, I know exactly who I got to share this with. You
Right.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I think
Like,
even too, like I like all about the people that were claiming that they were faking COVID numbers. They were faking deaths in hospitals to say they were COVID related.
they
Right.
were.
Um and yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like there was all this stuff. Like why? Like what is the point? Like what do you get out of that? Like I feel like to me, if my family member was in the hospital and they didn't die of COVID and they said it was COVID, like I would feel awful as that family member that they're using my family member as a statistic
Yeah.
Yeah.
for something that
Absolutely.
didn't even isn't true in their sense. You know what I mean? Like
I
it would
It
just
totally.
that would
No.
bother me like a lot.
it
And I
really. Oh, I'm sorry.
no,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no. It's okay. I think there was just one thing too. I really wanted to touch on too because,
Yep.
like you said, Keith, like I'm not anti-vax, but
Right.
I'm also not. The same thing with masks. Like I'm very pro-choice. If you feel like you need to wear a mask to protect yourself, great. If you don't want to wear a mask, great. That's your choice.
Right.
Like I'm not, you know, I'm not like that person that's going to be like, oh, well, I'll wear a mask, but I'm not going to get vaccinated. So least you can do is wear a mask. No, I'm going to do what I need to do to protect myself and what I need to do to protect my family, what I think I need to do. And you do the same for your family.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify because it's not just the vaccine, it's
Yeah.
also the masks. Like, if you want to wear them, wear them. If you don't, you don't. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to make you feel uncomfortable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Of
Yep.
course. I think that's really important. The right to choose is more important than ever when it comes to everything. When it comes to everything in the world, I think it's the right to choose is extremely important.
Yeah.
And of course, like I've said in the beginning, government overreach is something I'm really against. And the mandates as far as being vaccinated is one thing. Masks, I believe the least thing you can do is put on a mask to protect other people around you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You do it not just for yourself, but for the betterment of everyone around you. And if that's such a hard concept to grasp in this day and age, that means people have become too full of themselves. You know what I mean? I think. In my opinion, you know what I mean? That's
Mm-hmm.
just what it is. People seem to not give a crap anymore. And I get it. Like, it's been a hard time. It's been a lot, mentally, physically, it's exhausting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so I
I'm
think
sure we
that,
could do a whole
but
thing
at the
on
same
mental
time,
health
yeah,
and the
Oh
exactly.
yeah.
pandemic.
But at the same time, I very much, while choice is a huge thing, personally don't agree with the vaccine because it is a Right now, it's still in testing. You know what I mean? It's not even a final form, a final thing. We don't have enough data on it right now. And it's just something that I would rather not have to wait until I'm 50 something years old, or it's like 10 years from now, to wait for a commercial that says if somebody you love was died or was killed because of the vaccine mandates or whatever,
Hmm.
you're entitled to a large sum of money. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to have to worry about losing family members, me dying myself, anything like that, because of these things I've heard. And unfortunately, like we said, doctors just don't know what to say. And so, of course, they err on the side of caution and say, yeah, we believe in the vaccine wholeheartedly. It's a this and that and the other thing, tried and tested and true and
Hmm.
whatever. But and I don't want to take the chance that I'm one of those small percentage of people who has or develops, even worse issues. And
Hmm.
especially now they're saying that there are more long-term effects of COVID. They call it long COVID, where you
Yep.
can actually have symptoms of COVID for a long time afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
I
like, like I went to my doctor and he said, I want to see you in 2 months when it's out of your system to see if anything changes, and I was like, okay. And that's pretty much where I left it.
Well, that actually was your cardiologist that
Yeah,
said
yeah,
that.
right. My regular doctor, we've discussed it in the past, and at first he was very like, yeah, I think you should get the vaccine. And then later on, I guess he changed his tune because he realized, like, this attitude of like, yeah, just do it, to hell with the consequences, it'll save your life, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And to hell
Hmm.
with the consequences is the
Yep.
reason why we have such atrocities in our science, you know what I mean, where people experimented on people horrifically, you know
Yeah.
I think that's
Um,
just something we as a society have moved past and should still be cautious moving forward, you know?
it's um, it's a it's it's crazy when you look back at history. You know, like for the most part, you hope unfiltered, unchanged, unredacted.
Right.
You know, unlike, and I'm gonna just say it, unlike when we were growing up.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
It was very bite-sized, easy to
it
swallow
was very
pieces.
bite-sizey. They let you learn what they thought was what they thought was right, and now
Right.
here we are again arguing about what should and what shouldn't be taught in schools when it comes to other things. But we're
Yeah.
not going to get into that right now. My thing, because I honestly
That's a
I
show in itself, I feel
yeah,
like.
that's a whole other show.
Yeah.
But speaking of doctors and their takes on the vaccine,
Mhm.
so recently I had to go to my primary care doctor. Hadn't gone to my primary care doctor in a while, right?
Right.
Thanks to the lockdown and everything, right? So he checks me out, checks my vitals and everything, and just does what he normally has to do to
Right.
make sure that I'm okay. And he asked me if I had gotten the vaccine, right?
Okay.
I said no.
Uh-huh.
He said okay, right? What's up?
Left it at that. He didn't.
Well, yeah, he didn't go like he asked me how I felt about it, and that was the thing. He asked me how I felt. Like I had posted about a questionnaire that they had me sign that they had me fill out asking about my mental health
Right.
from 1 to 5. I had never gone through that at a regular doctor's office before, so that was a welcome surprise. But
Right, of course.
my doctor himself asked me what I how I felt about everything that was going on. How am I, after looking at the sheet, he did take into account how I was actually feeling. So when we got on the subject of the vaccine, he didn't say I think you should take it. I think you should know. The one that did do that, another trustworthy doctor, but you can definitely tell that they have two different ideologies. She was my physiatrist, and for those who don't know, I have cerebral palsy. So she's the one that helps me with my muscles and everything else, right?
Right.
She wants me to get the vaccine.
Okay.
She wants me to get the vaccine. She got it herself. She talked about how, and this was about a year ago. So she's like, eventually everybody's going to get it.
Of course.
Everybody's
Of
going to get it.
course.
You just want to be, you just want to be, you just want to be protected. And this is when we were just talking about Delta. And at this point, I had already had people in my family who had Delta and either had gone through the hospital or were asymptomatic or had, done something to help it move along. They
Of
recovered,
course. Right.
and some of them did not. Like I have lost, a family member or two from it. But you can tell that not everybody is on not everybody is on the same page, obviously,
That
because
popped
we
up in
all have
the
our own,
video, just to
you
let you
know,
know,
we,
Al.
we all have our own opinions. I'm just um honestly glad that they asked me about how I was feeling about it and didn't try to. One felt like it was pushing a little bit, but she wasn't getting like angry about it. The other one was like, okay, you know,
I mean, that's a huge plus, but I mean,
yeah,
that the other doctor wasn't really saying anything too much about it. Was asking you if you had gotten it and kind of left it at that.
right,
I feel like they kind of tend to avoid that kind of thing. So
yeah.
we have about 10 minutes on our call before I have to switch over and run a new call. So, but that's no big deal. Yep. For anybody out there watching, we are using Hangouts, so it's fun on a bun.
This is actually pretty cool. It's first, like what is our fourth time using this format?
Yeah, yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm using probably about that. I mean, I use it when I do any kind of play along videos or whatever, just because I like the ability to have the background, whatever background I choose, rather than looking at like my mess of a room going on back here, my giant mess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Allie can confirm. She's like, yeah, you're a giant mess.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think that's I think that's kind of par for the course these days now. As to where doctors don't want to get involved in that heavy conversation. They don't want to be, um, what is that word I'm looking for? Um, Not argumentative, but
Mm.
something like that. So it's just a matter of, having respect for a person's personal choices.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, a debate or a conversation is always good to have, where
Yeah.
you can have a two-way conversation, but it's hard because some doctors just want to have that one-way conversation and just tell you what they think is right, you
But
know?
you also got to. I also have to keep in mind not just the individual doctor, but also how they're trained.
Right, of
You
course.
know,
And
they're
their training is very out of date. It's very incomplete. It's very still kind of one of those
and
things that you learn as you go.
yeah, and speaking of learn as you go, we've only been dealing with this pandemic for 2 years, right?
Right.
We've only been dealing with it for 2 years. During the Spanish flu pandemic, I believe that lasted 3 years,
Wow.
right? I believe that lasted 3 years. I gotta
Let me
check
just
check
let
my
me
history
fact
again.
check that real
But
quick.
yeah, but yeah, this does not surprise me. Like some people tell
Uh
me,
so yeah,
staying,
till let's see, 1918, 1 and 2 years, yeah. 18 and 19. So
mm-hmm,
yeah, that's par for the course, I guess, so far when you look
yeah,
at it. I
because
mean,
we're still learning about this. We're still learning about this. In speaking of and speaking of like the mandates and stuff are ridiculous.
uh-huh.
Imagine how in neither one of us here are parents
Right, of course.
um at this point in time, but you see how certain states are dealing with or not dealing with schooling when it comes to this, right?
Right, right,
You know, so it's to me it just shows how ill prepared we were.
right.
um and even though steps were taken during the Obama administration, and then Trump administration shut that down, but they still had the data. My dad's like, well, see, this is how they were able to get the vaccine out so quickly because they already had they already had precautions just in case. They just needed a sickness
Oh wow.
to go through, right? They just needed a sickness. Like if you look at the speech he made about 6 years ago at this point, Obama was talking about having an infrastructure for for diseases and stuff and stuff like that. So
Right.
they already had a plan. They just didn't know it was going to come to get to this level,
Right.
you
Of
know.
course.
So, and I'm not trying to say because I'm not trying to say that one did better than the other. What I am trying to say is yes, I can understand how some people were skeptical, including myself, about how quickly the vaccine got rolled out after we had just heard about it after going through lockdown. So parts of this were already being taken into account, but it also showed how other countries had a better handle on it than we did because I like everybody from South Korea to freaking New Zealand, they knew they knew what it seemed like they knew what they were doing right off the bat. Us, we couldn't decide either here or there because we're divided. You know?
Yeah, I mean it's really crazy when you think about it how, it really does. It's just another thing that we've been divided on as a country. Of course you had white or black, left and right. Now it's vaccinated and unvaccinated, people who've had
Conservative
COVID to
versus
people who don't
liberal.
have
Da, da, da,
COVID.
da, 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 da.
Exactly. So many of these different divisions have really come out, and it hasn't even really been because of COVID. It's just because like talked about how fast the news cycle is. That if we did a video, by the time it was edited, all that news would be so out of date already.
Yeah.
And I think within maybe a week or two, some of this news might be outdated. Who even knows? You know what I mean? But at least this way we can get it out to people in a quick way, where they can get some of that information and even
Mm-hmm.
reach out to us and try to get in touch with us and give us and as well as our viewers some insight into their experiences. So at that point, what I want to do real quick is I'm going to jump over to a black screen where we are going to switch into another room, and then we're going to go over our COVID stories.
Sorry, I just had, out of respect for the conversation, I
Oh
needed it
yeah,
to be muted.
that's okay.
No, it's
Yeah, I
okay.
know you have a phone call going
Because
on
there
in the
was a
background.
couple things I was listening to that I would like to touch on that you guys touched on.
Okay.
So
All right.
whenever we get in there.
Actually,
All right.
let's go ahead and touch on that now. We've got a
Yeah.
few minutes on here to do that,
Well,
so let's
I
go
think
ahead
the
and
biggest
roll.
thing was like you guys were speaking about doctors and how, like, you said, Keith, like doctors, they don't want to get, I guess, because like there's differing opinions, like you said, Kyle, too. Like one doctor was get the vaccine, one was like, okay, no, like I respect your decision.
Right.
I feel like because my doctor told me he doesn't recommend me getting vaccinated, I feel like that I didn't think that that would be his response, for the pure fact that according to everything that's been going on, everyone feels that obesity and being overweight is a very big comorbidity with COVID. And they take that and they say that that is what cause severe infection, potentially death.
Mm.
And so when you hear that and you see that, you're like, oh crap, like I'm at a higher risk. I'm considered a higher risk for COVID. Gosh, what do I do? And then I ended up getting it. And like that's a whole nother conversation for when we get into that. But for my doctor to look at me, okay, he knows my medical history, he knows my whatever, to tell me not to get it. Like I don't know how, like how do you, I'm not anti-vax, so it's like how do you explain, well, I'm already not comfortable with it,
Right.
but my doctor is also recommending me not to get it, but I'm considered in the medical community to be high risk.
Yeah.
So
So it's like
wait.
conflicting, like it's conflicting. Like he's the only doctor I've seen So I can't compare it to seeing another doctor telling me another thing. You know what I mean? Like Keith has two different doctors that he's seen. One was like, okay, you don't have to, and one was pushing it, saying how high risk he was
Right.
because he vapes, he's overweight, obese, like all these risk factors.
Right.
um so I don't have another experience to compare it to for another doctor that was pushing it for me and saying, hey, yeah, you should get it. I only have my one doctor that I see that's like, no, like I'm not recommending it for you. Like it's not, something that I feel you need to do.
Right.
So
What was
I
his?
don't know.
Excuse me for a second.
Yeah.
What was your doctor's reasoning for you not getting it?
He didn't really well, he gave me a reason that is probably not medical. He said that it will never, once I start getting vaccinated, it's never going to end. He said that he doesn't see an end to being vaccinated against COVID. He
Gotcha.
doesn't see that. Oh, it
Our
says the call's about to
yeah,
end.
our call is
Yeah.
going to end right now. So we're going to take a quick recess for a few minutes, and I will shoot you guys links, and we'll be right back. So stay
Okay.
tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
I think we're doing it, man. I think we're doing great so far, though.
Trying to figure this friggin' stuff out.
Okay, well, I gotta go pay my water bill. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, no, I'm only eating them now because we're not live. So what else was she saying?
Um, Not too much. Big Charlie, little Charlie.
All right. Okay.
And I believe we are back. Let's check our audio here.
Uh, okay.
Check two, check one.
I'm checking the
Ooh.
audio on
Check
YouTube.
100.
Beautiful. The playback is a good thing. Let's go ahead and mute. Mute. Yes, we are good there. Okay, so anyways, so basically we come back from talking about, some of our, thoughts on the vaccine, some of the new reports that have come out about, politics and a little bit, dabbling in politics, not too much because we don't want to make this, too unbearable to listen to or even
Hmm.
watch. Um,
Yeah.
but right now we're going to talk about our own private experiences. And as three people here who are not vaccinated who happened to get COVID at about the same time as the surge happened, what was the third surge of the pandemic, I
I
believe?
don't even know.
I can't even keep up anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine this is the third surge of it. We had the first surge in 2019 at the end of 2019. Then next one at 2020, and then this one 2021 into 2022. So I guess we followed the third part of the curve there with no vaccines. So that we can speak on our experiences from not being vaccinated, but we would love to have you guys reach out to us. Kyle, where can they reach out to you at?
You can reach out to me on my email at kyleeric3233 at gmail. You can also reach out to me on Instagram, same address. And yeah, we would love to have you share your stories.
Of course. And Allie, I've
Yeah.
got you at Paper and Ink at under TikTok, Allie underscore Sams, SAMS.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And Allie spelled with an I, not a Y.
Yep.
On Instagram, Paper and Ink Editing. So it's with the N, not and. All one word. And on Facebook, you are under Paper and Ink Editing, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and leave those links down in the crotch. So if anybody wants to check out Kyle's two shows, because Kyle has two shows that are listed here on the brain and A for Abled.
Yep.
Kyle, you want to go ahead and let people know where, or I should say, what those shows are a little bit about.
Okay, so On the Brain has a flagship show, but it also has a plethora of other shows talking about the different things in the geek and nerd spectrum. Everything from your comics to your anime to your movies, a little bit of science thrown in there. We talk about everything and just have fun. A for Able, on the other hand, is a bit more serious. We talk about mental health. We have people come and share their stories of thriving and living despite their challenges, whatever it may be. Now, myself, I live with cerebral palsy, so I've talked a little bit about that. But we've also had people talk about everything from their diabetes to what it's like raising a kid on the spectrum
What it's like being a worker during the pandemic.
to what it's like being
medical
being a
field.
central worker during the pandemic. We've covered a lot of ground, but we're nowhere near done. So check us out at A for Able, or if you want to nerd out with us, check us out on the Brain, ENT.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, highly recommend both podcasts.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
I gotta say, I think my favorite on the brain has to be the if Apple made a sex robot thing. I'm telling you that I was dying. Just listen to that for the whole episode. Couldn't help but die laughing. It was so funny.
I don't think that one's on my Spotify page. I got to re-upload that for
man, that was such a good episode. But I highly recommend you guys check it out. You can even check it out over on YouTube, right? Because you still have the old episodes on YouTube.
Used to. Like that was on the Brain 1.0.
I was a part of the OG on the Brain when it was on
part
YouTube.
Of the OGs. That's where we started. Now we're a bit more
polished.
I would mature, meh, but we've grown. A little.
Right, a little bit. It's all good.
Right.
It's all about having fun, really. It's all about
Exactly.
spreading information
Exactly.
and having a good time doing, hanging out with your friends and doing that. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the best things is that, during the pandemic, I think everybody started a podcast because everybody hangs out with their friends. They all have inside jokes, and it's just, and those inside jokes are so easily gettable and relatable
Mm-hmm.
that I think that's what social media has become. And I think
Yeah.
that's a great thing because that's how we connect in these days. You know what I mean? In these dark days of the pandemic and whatnot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great that we have a way to connect. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about time that life caught up to the technology that we had.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So with that said, and for everybody rejoining us in the second half or just joining us in the second half here, um, we are talking today about our COVID experiences and some of the other news that surrounds such, terrible situation we are all facing as mankind, as a species.
Mm-hmm.
Not just as a world, but as a species, we are, going through this all together. Unfortunately, there are so many different ways we can be driven apart. We talked a little bit about that. Talked a little bit about your right to choose and what that means in this post-apocalyptic society we live in. I should say the slowest apocalypse in the universe, because everybody's ready for a zombie apocalypse where we have to hunker down and fight zombies and survive. And this is what we're in. Go to the grocery store, wear a mask, try to survive the grocery store. you know it's so weird. you know
Or
Uh,
go
No,
to
but
the
also trying
bank
to
and wear a
find things in the
mask.
grocery
yeah,
store.
yeah, exactly. And it's so strange. Yeah, exactly. Like 2 years ago, you couldn't walk into a bank wearing a mask. Nowadays, it's common practice. You
Oh,
know.
yo, oh man. No, speaking of that, just for some laughs. So
Uh huh.
so last month went to the credit union, and one of the bank tellers was wearing a cowboy hat with the mask.
Oh
So,
wow.
so I'm like, man, does she know? She had to know how ironic
Was it
how ironic
wait?
that
Was
was.
it like a
How
Halloween thing or?
I don't know. I forget. I think it might have. I think it might have been. Yeah. No. If it was then it must have been like must have been 2 months ago. We're at the end of January now. But
Yeah.
like more than a few months ago. And
Wow.
the teller's wearing a mask with a graphic on it. I forgot what the graphic was, but it matched her cowgirl outfit.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm
Oh,
like,
there you go.
do
Hey, at
you
least she was
know?
matching. At least she had it together. You know what I
Like,
mean? I
listen,
can't even
mask.
match my socks in the morning, let alone match an outfit.
In no, in Japan, masks were already a fashion, a fashion statement in some places.
Yeah.
Now people have, and now some people have
Even here, when the pandemic
embraced.
started, I watched a guy build this really cool mask with fans in it and filters and
Oh,
lights.
word,
And I was
yo.
like, that is awesome. I was like, all you got to do is put Bluetooth in there so you can talk on the phone on it. Perfect.
I
Just
saw this
done.
one. I saw this one face mask, this one face shield that had that had headphones
Right.
already equipped,
Of
right?
course. Of course
I'm
that
like,
would be a thing. I mean, you have to understand, people it's solving a problem, right?
mm-hmm,
Through invention. The invention is the what is it? The whatever of necessity, you
mm-hmm.
know. And so of course, if you are in that specific niche where you can't wear a mask and had, earphones at the same time or whatever, you could just combine the two so you know where they are at all times. And I
That
think that's
yeah.
a new thing I saw with this Tommy. I don't know if it was Tommy Copper or something like that, but they have this mask that has a lanyard built in. And then you could just grab the loops and pull them up, put them around your ears, and the whole mask is attached to you.
Well, there you go.
Exactly. I was like,
Now
that
we're
is
having
so convenient. Where's your
now we're
mask? It's
having some
around your
fun
neck.
with this. Now
Yeah.
we're having some fun with this instead of people coming up with
Doom and
remember
gloom.
remember early on people were coming in with gas masks and
Yeah,
hazmat
like
suits
hazmat
and
suits. Yeah, it was like, what the?
yo
Are we
man.
in the blob right now? What's going
I
on?
mean, this does feel like a horror film.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
in a lot of cases it does feel like a horror film. And I'm but what have they done? Speaking of creativity, what have people done? They've used that to their advantage. They've written books about it. They've
Yep.
made movies about it. If you haven't or just made movies referencing it. And if you haven't seen Up in the Air, I highly recommend. Like, Don't Look Up. I mean, Don't
Oh
Look Up.
yes, don't look
Air,
up.
Up in the Air is
Yes.
about the economy.
Oh my
Don't
God.
Look Up. If you haven't
It's a
seen
good
Don't
movie.
Look Up on Netflix,
Do you know?
definitely.
Hold on. I have something I've been saving to talk about with that, and
Mhm.
Well, why
I
don't
know
you save it for when we do a show about it?
We have to.
Yeah, we
We've been
really
wanting
have
to.
to talk
We've been
about
wanting to for a while.
But
We
that
need to
was
get out of this.
written 2 years before the pandemic.
Oh
So
my
it has
God, I
nothing
know.
to do with the pandemic at all. It just has to do
But
with the
it
current
just
state of
fit.
global warming and how
Yeah.
people are more obsessed with all this outside influence rather than the one thing that's really about mankind.
But all of that goes together way too well because yeah, global warming we've been talking about for decades at this point. At one point it used to be called global cooling. Back in the 70s, they used to call it global cooling. Now it's global warming. I'd prefer just climate change,
Did they
you know,
think we were going to have another ice age?
possibly.
I mean, when you look at what's just happened, we had the volcano in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
So we just had that, which puts, of course, more tar and whatnot into the air, and of course all the ash and whatnot blocking out the sun.
Yep.
That's what started an ice age in the first place. When you think about it. So it's kind of like, okay, are we, is this kind of the Mother Nature's way of correcting things?
Yeah.
You know?
Like the earth will eventually start to heal itself, but we're not helping. We're not doing it any favors.
No, we are not.
We are not doing any favors. And
Unfortunately.
regardless of what side you're on, the fact is we're all living on this earth together. Okay, if we can't breathe, then what? Then goodbye. I mean, I know they found I don't know how many other planets out there in our solar system alone,
Yeah.
but we don't know which ones we can live on yet. And I'm not going to Mars. You know, I'm not going to. I love you, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a G, but I want to go to Mars.
Yo, I want to. I'm telling you, if honestly, I was telling Allie the other night, and I said, if we focused more on mankind, and stop the petty bickering and the BS and the line in these jerks' pockets who aren't doing nothing for us, we could get to outer space, out of our solar system into another galaxy by now. We could have
yeah.
already done that.
I'm gonna be the podcast episode police. We need to get back on topic.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we do. Okay, so yes,
'Cause-
while the future is a great thing to talk about, and at the same time, all this great exploration and scientific discovery, we have to get back to focusing on the task at hand, which is scientific discovery and through experimentation and observation. And so we will start our experimentation observation with let's go with Kyle, because you have a
Mhm.
very interesting story about your COVID journey.
Yep.
So, and I believe it starts with the holiday, right?
Yeah, it started around the holidays, started around Thanksgiving. So, usually during Thanksgiving, I have a big family, so we all gather at one of my cousins or aunts' houses, right? Um, during the during the year of of lockdown, when we were during all that, we socially distanced, but there was still a handful of us. We all were sitting at separate tables, right?
Okay.
We were masked up. We had a my dad had the thermometer gun and had us all and had our temperatures tested, and that's how we did it. But the previous Thanksgiving that just passed, it was the least amount of people I have ever hung out with during Thanksgiving,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to me and my sister, who at that time were happy to not only see our family, but also we were planning a trip to Florida to go see our aunt who couldn't make it, unfortunately. So, unbeknownst to us, actually two of our family members had COVID
Oh, wow.
that were with us that day, right? Now, a couple of them were also vaccinated, and we talked about that and everything, right? So, but we didn't notice anything. We didn't notice that we had it until I'd say about 2 days after we got to Florida. Now, what I found that was interesting was the symptoms came in waves for me because
Right.
it started with it started like with a tickle in the throat. And I'm thinking, it is allergy season,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is allergy season. I usually get something around this time anyway. So I wasn't thinking that it was COVID. I was thinking that this was just a normal cold and it would pass.
Right.
Then the
Let
next
me
day,
real quick digital pimp you out here. So I was watching the other show you're on,
yep, who
the
they
Who They
want,
Want podcast. Yep.
who they want
Um,
podcast. Shouts out to them.
yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Steady. Are you ready?
Steady,
And
are you ready? Tasha, everybody.
Tasha.
Yep.
Yep. So, anyways, I saw you on that show, and I noticed that you were kind of like, clearing your throat a lot, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder if he's got like allergies or something going on from, just from being in Florida, the
Right.
difference in the weather.
Yeah, because
So,
that's what I was thinking originally. Because when we left, it was 38. When we got there, it was 70.
ooh,
We
nice.
got when we got there, it was 70. It was like 70, 72 degrees. Then the temperature just kept going up because we stayed there for a week. Right? We stayed
Wow.
there for a week. I started getting everybody's working from home.
Right.
I'm thinking I can still do my podcasting and I'm still working with other clients. If anybody needs, help with their web content, contact me.
Right.
Um, so we're doing that, not even thinking about it. And then the week goes by and I noticed that, I'm coughing. I was fatigued. I was fatigued one of the days. I just wanted to sleep all day. I would wake up coughing in the morning, like early in the morning,
Right.
in a freaking sweat, all that stuff, right? And I'm like, this has happened before. I've had bronchitis and stuff before, and post nasal drip and all of that, strep throat. I've had all
Of
of that growing up,
course.
chicken pox. So
Oh
I'm
my
not
God.
so I'm like, and once again, this is cold and flu season, so I'm thinking it could be just that.
Yeah.
Then we get a COVID test done because we're about to leave, right? We get a COVID test done. The next day, my sister, who was completely on top of this, big ups to Shy,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
she sat me down and she's like, "Don't freak out, but we have it."
Oh my
Like, the
gosh.
both of us, for real, we have it. But here's one thing. I noticed: my symptoms started to dissipate. You know what I'm saying? They started to slowly go away. So
Right.
I didn't feel that bad. I wasn't stuck in bed or anything like that. So I was like, why is it that my symptoms and my sister's symptoms are very mild? Cheyenne's out here in the sunlight on the balcony of our aunt's apartment taking meetings every day. That
Right.
whole time she was there, she was out in the sunlight,
Good
right?
for her.
Out in the sunlight, getting her vitamin D, taking in meetings, just soaking up sun. It was beautiful, right? She had the cough and everything, but we were juicing every day. Um, we were our mother's a health coach, and we're big on essential oils, so we were doing like breathing exercises and stuff of that nature. When we both looked at each other and was like, okay, so that means we got to quarantine for a week. We got to
Yeah.
stay at our aunt's house for a week. So our aunt's helping to take care of us. Shy is doing everything on top of the fact that currently she's pregnant. So I look at her for guidance, even though that's my younger sister,
Right.
because she had already been through original recipe COVID. Her
I love that original recipe COVID.
her and my and our dad had both gone through COVID at the beginning of lockdown. So
Right.
she knew what to expect as far as how to deal with it because we were both feeling okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we weren't feeling like 100%, but we would tell each other how we were doing and how we were feeling. I
Right.
noticed that my symptoms started to go away faster than my sister's, because she was like right behind me. But then our aunt, she caught it as well because she was helping to take care of us.
Oof.
Hers ended up going from pneumonia to COVID, so she got a dose of, I know,
Double whammy.
Yeah, double whammy, man. It's no joke because one of our cousins that was with us during Thanksgiving, he ended up with pneumonia too. So so my family is going through it. Some of them had already been through it, so they knew what to do. But I'm listening to it's like one of those things where you're listening to everything that somebody says. Like, okay, so here's what you got to do. You got to stay hydrated. Yes, we did. You got to stay hydrated. You got to do this. You got to do that. Do your breathing exercises. Do this. Do that. The thing. Da, 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 da. And we just did everything we could think of. Right.
Right.
We just did everything we could think of. And I think the only medication I took was something for a headache because during the cough, when the coughs were when I was coughing, my head would just start to boom 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 boom,
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, after about a week or so, it started to dissipate. It wasn't completely gone because because when I got back home after dealing with the contact tracers and everything, right? After I got back home, because because once you have a positive test, everybody knows about it.
Right.
The contact tracers are calling me. They're asking me, okay, do you want to divulge anything about your COVID experience? Did you experience this, this, and this? So I just straight up asked them, I can opt out of this, right? And they're like, yeah, you have like, there's no real reason. The only thing they need to do is keep track of the numbers,
Right.
right? They're not keeping track of the symptoms, which I believe they should.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah.
are,
Definitely believe that.
but I
is true.
think that should be more of a thing because notice when you guys got it, and I'm gonna pass it over to you, and I'm gonna pass it over to you in a minute. When you guys got it, our symptoms were similar yet very different. And one thing I will say, when during my secondary quarantine when I got back home, I was feeling better, but the mucus stayed behind. Like, I stopped coughing, there was no headaches, no
Right.
fatigue, but the mucus stayed behind. And I'm trying to cut down on stuff that I used to eat. So it's like, hmm, you just like this is a whole different ball game here, right? But eventually, after about another week or so, that started to dissipate as well.
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna pass the mic to the two of you, and you talk about your
Um,
experiences.
so I did want to ask you a little bit about your travel situation because
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a lot of people dealing with the same kind of situation, trying to get home, after finding out they've had COVID and, trying to make arrangements to do so.
Hmm.
So I did want to talk a little bit about how your situation went, for your travel back.
Okay.
And,
It was
not really to call anybody out specifically or anything like that, but just to
no.
kind of have other people understand how, I mean, it's a situation where, you did your quarantine, you went
Yeah.
through the symptoms and everything, and then
Yeah.
did your quarantine. And at that time, the funny thing is wasn't it while you were under your quarantine that the CDC changed their date?
They hadn't no actually. They hadn't changed the guidelines until because they just changed the guidelines
Yeah.
at the beginning of this month. This
Right, right.
happened to this happened to me the first couple of weeks of December.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I remember
So
that.
the guidelines stated you had to quarantine for a good 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Now it's cut in now it's cut down to 5 days. So so honestly, I'd rather go back to 2 weeks to be completely honest with you, just to be on the safe side.
Right, I
But
Yeah.
agree. I think that two
you know,
week period was a perfect amount of time because that's actually like a standard quarantine time for
yeah,
anything. Is 14
and
days. So
I
I
want to
think
take the
that
opportunity
that's
to just yeah, I just want to take the opportunity real quick to say big ups to our medical personnel
yeah,
who have been dealing with this even after the guidelines have been changed. And
right.
it's because the stuff I'm hearing from I follow this travel nurse on TikTok, and she
Oh,
was the one that made me aware of the guideline changes, and how she felt about it. 'Cause she's all for the vaccine, but she's not for these, the way that they just switched up the quarantine guidelines.
Gotcha.
So, but big ups to anybody out here who has to deal with that, because this is still crazy.
Rough.
Yeah, because and also they change day to day the guidelines, so that has to
Right.
be really difficult already going into work as a healthcare worker and dealing with sick patients, and then constantly having to navigate family members that could
Mm-hmm.
have visited now can't visit and things like that because they change every day. So
It is nuts.
it's crazy.
It really
course.
is. But as far as the traveling back, it was just like when I got there. There was no real changes, because, like I said, we stayed an extra week in Florida,
Right.
and I don't know this for sure, but I want to say the weather helped.
Okay.
I want to say that the warm, because it was warm constantly.
Oh yeah.
I think it rained like 2 days. It rained when we got there, but like sprinkles, and then it rained like a couple days later. But everything else was like 79, 80 something degrees,
Wow.
right?
I
Wow.
mean, when
And
I went to Florida, it was like October,
yep.
and this was like 2025 or 2025, 2015, or no, actually,
Are you
probably
I was gonna say we
2005.
didn't
2005. Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like
we didn't get
2025.
to 2025 yet there,
Anyway,
buddy.
you know what? I'm so used to saying it from Call of Duty, like it's just stuck in my head.
I
2025.
mean, now we're in
But
2022, so
in
that's not that far
2000,
off.
It's not that far.
2005, I think it was 2005. I went to Florida last, and it was in October. And in New Jersey, it was in the teens to the 30s,
Mm-hmm.
and in Florida, it was in the 50s to the 70s. And I was like, "This is great. What am I doing in New Jersey?" But also, it was like the first time I'd ever been to Florida and seen a palm tree.
Okay, sure. That's the story you want to stick to
Right,
it.
right.
We all
So
know that's not the truth.
right. I had never seen a tree before.
You've never seen a tree.
So yes, uh, good old throwbacks.
Aw.
But yeah, so and so that was my experience in Florida, and for it to be like in December to be like 70s to 90s, whoo man. I mean, I love warm weather, especially when I'm sick. Warm weather is so much nicer to be in,
Mm.
because you can just cool yourself down with AC or whatever. But like in the wintertime, when you get that chill on you and you're sick, like you just have that chill and it stinks, man. It doesn't go away. So I can imagine being in Florida might have been nice for the weather.
Mm. Yeah. Honestly, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go back home. Like
Yeah, I bet.
I don't blame you.
first week flew by, and we had so many. We had so much stuff planned. But after the positive result, we had to backtrack and stayed home. But once we were feeling up to it, we went outside. We walked around. Masks on, of course, and we just made sure that and made sure that we were really up for it. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody in the house was vaccinated,
Right.
and also one of us was dealing with allergies on top of that.
Oh,
So
jeez.
we could have stayed another week because we wanted to help out our aunt, who unfortunately had a positive result on top of pneumonia like later on. But they basically convinced us, like, I think the best thing you can do is go back home because you're starting to feel better.
Right.
So so we went back home. There was no hassle. The only thing that really happened was the contact tracers were on my back. You know what I'm saying? Like
Of course.
they would call every day until I answered the phone.
Mhm.
And when I told them that what had happened to me, I didn't really go into detail, but I did say yes, I was tested positive, and then we had another test, right before we left,
Yeah.
and still tested positive because it was still in our system. I was feeling great, but aside from the mucus in my throat,
Yeah.
but I didn't really lose my sense of taste that much. It only lasted like less than a day. And like I said, big ups to my sister because her and our aunt kept us all kept us all up during this. It was just a that was an experience on its own, but I'm so glad that I was not alone. I kept saying that.
Right.
I was so
Absolutely.
glad that I was not alone
Now,
during,
one thing I do want to ask you about that I you mentioned previously was your another experience you had during COVID that was something different and new and kind
mhm.
of gross at the same time, and that is the Neti Pot experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was my first time. It was my first time with the neti pot.
Uh,
I knew that it was an old school remedy that dates way back.
right.
But you know, um, but yo, man, that was the weirdest because I love tea, but not in a million years did I ever think teapot up the nose.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't think that. You know,
it's
but
a
we did.
it's a very strange sensation too,
Yeah,
right?
but it cleared something out.
Yeah.
It
That's
cleared it,
good.
it, it cleared something out. That saline solution was no joke. And like I
Yeah.
said, we were doing the breathing exercises with the essential oils, and we were juicing everything. And I did the neti pot twice. I think Shy, because she's already had experiences with it. Me, I'm all like nervous, like what the heck is this gonna feel like? Like, you know,
Right.
I,
Exactly.
you know, and I'm like, man, whoever came up with this,
Right.
I don't know if y'all were geniuses or just mad because
Right.
something,
It really does seem like mad science from like the
yeah,
Middle Ages or something,
yeah,
but like at
and
the same time it
it's something so
works.
simple. It's something so simple, but it is gross because when you look at it, because it's not just water that comes out.
Right.
Hopefully,
Right.
it knocks loose certain things that are in there, right?
Right.
So you look at the water.
Yeah. Exactly. That's
You
your
look at the
mistake right
fluid.
there is looking at it.
You look at the fluid change color
Yeah.
as it's flowing down the drain.
Taste the rainbow.
And I'm like, I know something is
Ew.
working because that joint it changed color.
Oh boy.
Uh,
Oh man.
yeah, it got a little gross, but
Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah,
I mean,
it got a
that's
little
an
gross. So
experience that
at
you'll
least we
never
stayed at
forget.
least we stayed on topic. At least we stayed on topic, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So at this point, so Kyle, we've heard, your COVID story. Is there
Yep.
anything else that you want to, say before I pass it on over?
Honestly, I just want to say that one thing I keep finding fascinating is the fact that all these COVID stories are different and how it's affecting everybody differently.
Right.
So I just want to like I said, I'm inviting anybody who's willing to talk about their COVID journey, their COVID story, whether it was you that experienced it or somebody that that's willing to tell their story. Let me know, and check out A for Able for more details. I do plan on doing a series of episodes talking about the differences of people of when people experiences COVID.
Right. Absolutely. And I look forward to checking that out as well. Um,
Yes.
but as interesting as the stories are we've shared here so far, the next one is going to be from Allie. So Allie, if you would kindly share with us your COVID journey.
Um, okay. So we had been exposed to COVID before. Um, and we ended up not getting it. And then we got exposed just by a close contact, which was kind of like, you know, how people had like their quarantine bubbles of people you hang out with, and it's like you're all being safe.
Yeah.
And so, like, those are the people you go out and do things with because you know, like, they're being, safe.
Right. Of
And it
course.
just so happened that we don't even know where it came from, but whatever. We all got it. Our whole quarantine bubble
Yeah,
got
our
it.
whole crew.
Our whole
Mhm.
crew got COVID.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me, the most terrifying thing for me was hearing that because I'm overweight and obese, that I was going to have it really bad. And my anxiety started to get the best of me. And I was just immediately starting to think, like, okay, well, I'm watching, like, can I breathe, my temperature, what's my oxygen level. Like, I became hyper focused
Yeah.
on that. And so my biggest symptoms besides the headaches um, was I had fevers probably 10 out of the 14 to 16 days I was sick,
Oh wow.
which is kind of crazy because, like you said, Kyle, like they focus on the who tests positive, not the symptoms. Like
Mhm.
I kept a log of my symptoms because I was like, I just want to know if I have to talk to a medical professional, if I get worse, like
Right.
they can see. So, like, I recorded my temperatures, I recorded how I was feeling every single day. And in fact, if I pull it up really quickly,
Yeah, kind of give us
um,
the rundown on your
Yeah,
your
she's got the
so
thing here.
notes,
Yeah, she's got the minutes, the blow by blow,
yeah,
the play by play, if you
um,
will.
the play by play.
yeah, I did because I wanted to know. So I started with when I was exposed, so that there's two different dates I could have been exposed.
Right.
So the first day I said I had no symptoms. The second day I was feeling run down, a little tired, but nothing super crazy.
Right.
The next day after that, I started with the headache and the stuffy nose.
Oh.
Mm.
Wednesday started the next day after that. So that would be now 1, 2, 3, like the fourth day after I was exposed.
Oh wow.
I started with a low grade fever of 100.8. I took Tylenol. Like Tylenol and we were besties. We were
Mm.
best
Yeah.
friends. Like I probably went through, like, this is gonna sound bad. It wasn't a full bottle when I started, but I went through almost an entire bottle of Tylenol just from my headaches and fevers.
Yeah.
Oof.
Because I was probably taking it twice a day because I would have a high fever in the morning and a high fever at night.
Yeah.
And so they started, I started to cough on the fourth day, and the stuffiness, and I started to lose my taste and smell. I was also having hot flashes at that point. Then I went for my PCR test the next day, and I completely had lost my taste and smell. So 5 days after I was exposed, completely lost my taste and smell. I was congested, I was coughing. I actually didn't have a fever that day, and I was just trying to keep my fluids because I was afraid I was going to get dehydrated.
Mm.
Then the next day, Friday, in between, I had my one aunt. She had brought me vitamin D3, zinc, and elderberry, because she had recommended vitamins to take to help just keep my immune system up and working and everything.
Mhm.
So I had made a note that I was tired, I was coughing, I had a 99.5 fever, took the vitamins, and I was trying to drink vitamin C infused water. But like the thing is like because I had no taste, everything, it was almost like torturous to drink and eat during COVID. Like
Mm.
it was bad, like to the point where I was eating like maybe a jello. Um, I tried to eat soup and broth, but like I lost 20 pounds in those. I'm not bragging. That is not
Mm.
me like being like,
Yeah. No.
oh, I lost 20 pounds. Yes. I'm actually like, that's not good. Like that's just because I could barely eat at all.
Mm.
Right. Right.
Then the next day I got my positive results. Then my fever started to go in the 101s and 103s. So I
Mm.
had 101 fever, um, and then I took that in the morning, and then again at night, I had another 101 fever.
Right.
So I took more Tylenol. Then the next day, it was 99.1 in the morning, still having really bad headaches. Um, then I started to get the shakes. Like I was convulsing. Like
Mm.
I could not get warm. I was like, it was bad. Like I was just, the shakes were not good.
Mm.
And then, then at night, my fever went back up to 101. uh, then the next day is when I woke up with the highest fever I had, which was 103.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's when I really got nervous because I'm like, this is freaking me out that my temperature is this high. Um, and then it got down to 100 that day with
Mm.
Tylenol.
Yeah, that was a little bit of
Um,
scary, a little bit scary there. It was like it
and
during the night and
then
during the day, right?
I can
at that,
imagine.
yeah,
Jeez.
and then at that point, like after that, I kept having fevers, like anywhere between 99 low grade to 101, and that lasted up until December 28th when I got a negative COVID test. And I started my COVID symptoms on December 12th.
Gotcha.
So
Mm.
December 28th, like I got my mother-in-law brought us some cough medicine. Um, I had a lot of
Do you have this
thirst
on in the background, hon?
on in the background.
Do you have the video on in the background?
No, there's no. That's the TV. My
Oh,
mom's
okay.
watching TV.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering what that noise
Um,
was.
common like
I'm
was
watching it
nausea.
on YouTube to check for continuity and everything,
Oh, so do
and
you
How
want
we
me to
looking?
mute the
it's
TV?
telling me we started streaming 40 minutes ago, or like 45 minutes ago.
Just
Has
the
it been
whole thing.
45 minutes?
It's
Did we
been actually
lose?
like 2 hours, so
Yeah,
I don't
it
know if
has.
we
So
lost
wait,
the
did we
beginning of
lose
this or
the
not.
first part?
I really
Are
hope
you
not, but I
serious? I
think
hope not.
once it does its render thing, maybe it'll be okay. Hopefully.
I I
Um,
guess the common thing with me was I was having, like I said, the fevers, the taste and smell, the no taste and smell, the shivers, like, and the shakes. Like,
yeah.
could not stop shaking. I did a couple days feel shortness of breath that were a little bit extra than normal.
Right.
Um, and there was some days where I was afraid to walk around much because I was just, my anxiety was adding in a lot to my head too, because like I said, I was under the impression that I was going to end up on a ventilator in the hospital and not survive, because that's what
Mm.
I've been hearing.
Yeah.
I've been hearing in the news and medical people and just talking and saying like, hey, if you're obese, you are the biggest comorbidity to COVID. You're the people that are dying when you go to the hospital. So like when you hear that, you're like, oh my
Oh,
gosh.
we
Oh
got our
geez.
10-minute
Great.
warning is up. That's all right. No worries.
So I think that was just like my biggest thing. Like, you know, I uh I was scared, I mean, no. Okay, go ahead. Um, I just, I don't know. I let that fear take over too. And that was the sickest I've ever felt. So I've never gotten the flu before. Um, but when I had COVID, that was the sickest I've ever felt in my life.
Mm.
And to be honest, and I will be, so much so that I started thinking, like, okay, like, do I get vaccinated? Because if I get COVID again, because COVID is not going anywhere, does that make those will that lighten up the symptoms that I had?
Mhm.
And I was really seriously considering it, because I kept saying to Keith, I said to my mom, I was like, I don't know if I want to feel like that again. Like, I don't know if I want to feel that way I felt again.
Right.
Yes, I got through it, and yes, it was mild, but I don't know if I want to feel like that sick again. And
That's
that was
fair.
mostly why I brought that conversation up to my doctor when I did see him, and when he just wasn't really, I wouldn't say he wasn't interested to hear how I was doing. It was just, he was like, look, he's like, you're healthy per blood work and things like that and tests, and he's like, I don't see, well, we talked about that. I don't see, recommend it for you currently right now. And which is great, but it did make me question like his reasoning for that, but I think that was really it. I mean, I just was very I was in my room. And the hardest part for me was having to be away from my mom because it
Mm.
happened during Christmas, and I wasn't, I didn't want to get, we were so focused on not getting her sick
Yeah.
that if we had to come downstairs, we were wearing a mask and distancing as far away as from her as possible. Keith would like hold his breath when he would give her food if we made dinner or whatever.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like throw it at her a little bit,
No,
just like
not really throw it at her.
I'm
It
just
wasn't like
kidding. I'm kidding.
I really could have used one of those like arm on a
The
stick
grabber
things.
things,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Just here you go.
Oh.
Here's your plate. I'll take your
But
garbage. Okay.
that was the hardest thing. And like our text messages, like I just wanted to hug my mom. Like
Yeah.
Right.
it was our first Christmas without my sister being here. And, also with my family, not being able to see any family during Christmas was really hard for me
Right.
just because, again, we're having a huge loss and all of that. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's really it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Can I interject really fast?
yeah.
Your concern about getting the vaccine, I think, is valid.
Yeah.
Because they do stress that, and and I think this is the most I think this is the most realistic argument I can think of for the pro I can think of for getting it, and that's if when you get it, it's when you get the vaccine and then you get COVID, it won't be as bad as if you do if you don't have it. I'm like, okay, that right there seems like it's like, okay, like I said, we don't know for sure, but at least if you do get it, it won't be as bad as before because because this is a very this is like what the most asymptomatic um sickness that we've had.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's been so many cases of people being asymptomatic, having no clue that they have it in the first place. So you don't know. So I can understand people's concerns. I can understand people's concerns there, and even if you did end up getting it, nobody would look at you sideways for
Right.
it.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
that's the
at
thing
least we
too,
would.
is like I think that's the only reason I considered it. And then I was like, you know what? I guess my immune system is not as crappy as I thought it was. Cause
Right.
I haven't really been since the pandemic started, like we've been home mostly. Like, okay, yeah, we did go places and we were as safe as we possibly could be,
Hmm.
but we're not Keith and I are not how do I say this out on the town kind of people.
Right.
So being homebound and in being those types of people anyway, we've
Yep.
kept ourselves very protected as much as we could.
Mm.
Not saying like that we never leave the house or anything like that, but we've kept ourselves as protected as we could. And so I hadn't even been really that sick the entire pandemic. So
Hmm.
I don't know if that took into account too, why I was getting like those fevers and things when I did get it, because my immune system really hasn't had a chance to do anything because I've been in my own home for such a long time.
Mm.
And when I did go, I mean, I don't know if I'm not a scientist or am I a doctor. That's just me
Your
guesstimating.
thoughts.
Like, yeah, that's just me thinking, like, could that be a possibility? Why I was a little bit uh, on the more like mild, but like a little more intense mild version of it. You know what I mean?
I
Hmm.
think this whole thing has a lot of people, and not even just not even just in the way of like one way or another putting on a tinfoil hat. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Because there are so many things that you can think of, reasons for this to happen, reasons for things to happen, reason for things not to happen.
Hmm.
The what we would assume would be a natural progression of the virus becoming weaker, hopefully, over time.
Hmm.
Um, and while they say that the symptoms are less with the Omicron variant, I'm also seeing basically them saying that the Omicron variant has no bearing on the booster shots because the booster shots were made for Delta. You
And
know,
that's why they're currently working on a vaccine specifically for Omicron.
right. So I feel like as
And
these boosters come out, more and more work is going to be done in this field for the benefit of mankind over money right now, because
Yeah.
in the long term it will make its money back, you know.
Mhm.
But
That's
right
a
now, go
That's
ahead.
another thing too, though. Like you said, contact tracers were on your back, Kyle.
They
Like
they were calling.
I didn't
Yeah.
even get a phone call because people that I told that I had COVID, they're like, "Oh, get ready, you're gonna get calls from the Department of Health, and you're gonna get calls from these people." I got no call. The
I got
only
None.
a
call
call.
I got a call, one call, which was from my positive test result from the PCR person, and they just said, "Okay, you're positive, like this is what you have to do, this is what you have to quarantine for." They gave me, I asked a question like, I've already had it for a week. Like she said, you quarantine starts when you start showing symptoms. And then she said it's, at the time it was still 14 days. And then she had just asked me if I wanted to speak to a doctor about my symptoms. And I was like, no, like if anything, I'll call my own doctor, my primary care doctor. And that was it. And then I never got a call ever again from anyone else that was concerned about COVID for
I
me.
think for me, what had happened to me was, um, my sister gave them all the information. So they called. So the people that we took that that had our test results, they called her, or
Gotcha.
or sent her a text, or whatever, contact information she gave them. Then contact tracers started calling, but I didn't know that they were contact tracers at first, because I didn't catch the phone call. It's not like I was trying to avoid them.
Right.
To me, it was like, if I don't recognize the number, because I screen my calls. If I
Right.
don't recognize the number, and big ups to Google for having that as a feature, um, if I don't recognize the number, I leave it. I screen the call, and you tell Google why you're calling. You know what I'm saying? Just like a just like
Gotcha.
a just like a classic answering machine. You
Speaking of
know.
Google, guys, we're about to lose our call, so we're going to take a quick break here while we get reset up, and we'll be back in just a moment.
All right.
Hang with us, and we'll be right back, guys.
Okay.
We're really only at 2 hours. So, hey guys, we are back. So, as you can see on the screen here, Kyle and Allie have now switched. So, but we are back at the conversation, and we are going back at it where we left off. So, as you were saying during the break, I don't know if anybody noticed, Allie kind of turned to look behind her, and
Yeah,
yeah, you want to let everybody
because
know that.
I uh I felt a tap on my shoulder, and So when I turned my head, I thought like it was maybe my hair or something.
Right.
And then obviously nobody's behind me. My mom is sitting next to me, but she didn't like reach over to tap on my shoulder. You would have
Right.
seen it like in the video.
Oh,
Um, but I am sitting in my sister's seat, so maybe it was Gina.
maybe.
Um,
It's like
Maybe.
that's my spot.
Right. Excuse me.
probably.
Pardon me.
Yeah, like excuse me, lady. Like, oh
Right.
well, that and like the other day, remember I told you somebody like rubbed my back,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
look. But I was not. My back wasn't facing Keith. My back was facing the opposite way, so it wasn't like Keith reached over and rubbed my back. I
Right.
think I would
That
have
happened to me on
noticed.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Speaking of, so basically, where we are at now is, I guess I'll
I
tell
think you're up.
my part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're up.
So basically, started right around, right after Thanksgiving, I started to feel sick. Um, Started to just have like a general like cough and things like that. Now I normally have a cough because I was vaping, some like what is that called, nicotine salts or whatever, and they're not so smooth on my throat. So, I tended to cough a lot from that. Also, I smoke medical marijuana. So, of course, I cough from that too. But um, I was just having this uneasy feeling, like I was feeling sick. And so, after feeling sick for a couple of weeks, it started to, feel a little bit worse. And I was like, oh, like we were supposed to get together with our friend and, and do some things with some other friends. And we ended up, I took a COVID test. It came up negative, and I was like, "Oh, good. Maybe I just, maybe I was just sick. Maybe I just had like a flu or something. Whatever. No big. Well, it's good to know. I don't have COVID. We'll all get together and hang out. We're all good." And unfortunately, then we had our friends over, and then we went. You know, we went out. We did some stuff that weekend, and then come to find out, one of our friends tested positive, and it went from there to, okay, well, we were definitely all together. We were all hanging out, together. Me, Allie, and her mom. We were all hanging out together with our friends, and
Our
so we
quarantine
definitely all
bubble,
were like,
people.
okay, we all probably have COVID. So at that point, like, all right, well, I was feeling sick. I found out I didn't have it, and then I found out I did have it. So, or that I was exposed at that time. So I just kind of said, yeah, I'm going to say we have it, and just, it's at that. So then
Mm.
we scheduled tests to get done at our local Rite Aid, um, for Allie and I, because we were starting to have symptoms. Now, luckily, Kathy, as soon as we found out, we kind of quarantined ourselves from, Allie's mom, and try to stay 6 feet away at all times when we couldn't. We were wearing masks the entire time, and I was like, I would rather have COVID and not give it to her, because she is a little bit older than us. She has whatever symptoms of whatever she has to begin with. I know there's there's
She
a
has
bit of a medical history.
comorbidities. You
Yeah,
could
there's
just
a
say
bit of a
that.
medical history there, to begin with.
Hmm.
And so, well, one of the comorbidity things I get so pissed about, is this morbid obesity. I think we need to really redefine what morbid obesity is, because there's a big difference between being, 400 and 500 pounds and being, 350, to between 350 and 400, and still being healthy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Is the thing, because even in the 400s you could still have people who are healthy at that weight, which is amazing, in the general overall whatever of mankind and how far we've come with medicine and technology. But regardless of that, let me get back on topic here. So I just basically, waited. We took a at-home test, and it came up positive, and I was like, okay, I'm positive. I was like, Allie, she got her test scheduled. We both went, got our PCRs done, and they came up positive. So Allie got the call, what, 2 days later that you were positive?
Yeah.
And by then, for me, like for you, I think you had started to already have a little bit of a fever, and I lucked out. I didn't have any fevers until
I
like
think
the
my
end of
symptoms
it.
were like a
Well, yours
day
were
or
like
two
two
ahead
or
of you.
yeah, yours symptoms were about 2 days ahead of mine. And so
Mhm.
I was like, okay. I was like, well, I have to expect, that I'm gonna have my symptoms longer than Allie. And at the same time, I was like, okay, well, when this is over, we'll have immunity for a couple months, so that'll be good, but like, it's making it through it right now. And for me, like, to know, I don't really have any comorbidities aside from being heavy set.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like at the same time, I have, pain issues and stuff like that, and
Mm.
some nerve issues, and I was more worried about Allie at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to be the person because I'm up and down, like, and Allie was having fevers and not doing so good. I was like, I'm gonna have to be that guy that does all the cooking, all the, whatever I can do to keep everybody going, keep the house going. So, like, I was cooking for Allie, which was no big deal because we were already sick together. But I was so afraid of, her mom getting sick. And that's
Mm.
just like, okay. I was like, like as long as I wear my mask and sanitize and wash my hands over and over and sanitize, spray everything down with Lysol, whatever I can do. And she was pretty good about keeping, herself sanitized and Lysol and everything and, whatever, without her having to wear a mask at the time because, she has trouble breathing with a mask on, which a lot of people do, and I get it. But if I could mask up and keep her from getting it, that's what I wanted to do. So unfortunately, yeah, the hardest part was that we couldn't do for ourselves. So like it was like we had to reach out to my mom to run out and grab us stuff from the store, and then like Allie's aunt sent us, she ordered us dinner one night, which was cool. One of our good friends, she felt so bad because of the situation and we couldn't do anything, and she was like, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna send you guys some money to order groceries with, and whatever, and like if you can get them picked up, like that'd be great." And of course, they were going through it too at the same time, and so it was the same um, variant that we had, as to where like Allie and I turned out we were okay. I didn't have any fevers. I just had splitting headache, like
Mm.
unbelievably splitting headache, and I felt like I had a wicked sinus infection. Like my
Mm.
face, the sinus pressure was so bad, like it was causing headaches. I couldn't breathe. Then all of a sudden I couldn't taste. And Allie at the same time was going through, I can't taste. And I was like, perfect. I'll make whatever for dinner. I could make you a fucking turd on a hot dog bun, and it would be whatever to you. You wouldn't even know. You know what I mean? Like, so like whatever. Sometimes she doesn't like the things that I cook, and so she'll make something different. And so it was like, okay, we'll figure it out, like we'll make different things, whatever. And so then it became more about her texture, focusing on the texture. And that night I made, the last night I could taste dinner, I made meatballs with rotini, but I made them in the air fryer and I put them on a little bit
Mm-hmm.
too long, so they were like a little rubbery.
They're
Mm.
And
awful.
like she was like, I can't taste it anyway, so whatever. So she's eating it and she's like, they're squeaking in my mouth. And I was like, what, like you're chewing on a rubber bounce ball? She's like, yeah. And I was
That's
like, okay.
exactly
I
what
was
it
like,
felt like.
I was like, all right. I was like, well,
Yo.
whatever. Like I'll eat it because it tastes like meatballs. It's a little bit weird texture, but I don't care. I could taste.
I couldn't eat it. It
Um,
was awful.
yeah. And so like that night, like I was like, during the night, I noticed I started to lose. I was vaping, and I'm like, I can't suddenly taste my vape, and I'm like, oh, maybe I have vapor's tongue, because that happens when you vape a certain flavor for a while, you lose the sensation of that flavor. So it's
Mm.
very weird. And I was like, okay, I was like, no big. I'll just switch to something else. I was like, like I have this really gross menthol. What was it? Menthol orange and bacon flavor.
I
No
What?
have no
idea.
idea.
Yeah, no idea why it was that
What?
flavor.
What?
But
Wait.
it
That
was like mentholated.
sounds
And I was like, well, I
With
was like, I
bacon
like,
flavor?
yeah, it was not good at all. It was totally gross. Like I
sounds
tried it when I
disgusting.
first got it and I was like, oh no, this is like bottom of the barrel. If I have absolutely nothing else to vape, including can't make myself anything, This is like the Island of Misfit toys, like kind of like bag of vape juices that I would never vape unless I lost my taste for some reason or I was extremely desperate. So like I went with that and I was like, okay, no problem, like I can't taste this. This is great. But I had that menthol sensation. So that helped. And when I finally got to, the not being able to taste or whatever, we had leftover pizza in the fridge. So I was like, every time I eat pizza, I always have to heat it up. And I was like, well, if I can't taste anyway, what's the point of making it taste like I want it to taste? I'm just going to eat pizza, like straight up, microwave it and whatever. And no, I think that was the epitome of the second time I had the pizza. So I had some pizza it was like leftover pizza we had. I put it in the oven. I
Sorry.
got it crispy. I was like, this is great, just the way I like it. And I took a bite, and it was cardboard with mush on top. Like I can't describe it any other way.
Yum.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, and I tried to, lay out my symptoms in what I called the COVID diaries I did on YouTube. I did a bunch of shorts, and like so, but there was just some of it that like needed to be talked about, and it was those little things like not being able to run out to the store and pick up like something I really needed that was like really cheap that I could just run out and grab, you know, from the corner store, and I can't do that now. You know,
Mm.
something as easy as at this point, like I can't go to the dispensary. You know what I mean? I can't order. There's no Bud Hub. You know what I mean? So I
Oh
gotta
my
find. I
God.
gotta find a way to get it where oh, like, hey, does your dealer take Venmo? Does your dealer take what is it, Zello, Zell or whatever, or like
Are you trying to get
PayPal?
this flagged and taken
Yeah.
down?
So it's just really funny, like that has to be where your mind goes during that time, because of course, like I still use medical marijuana for pain relief, for the ability to work out my insomnia, stuff like that. And so without that, it was like, no, I'm not going to be able to get through COVID if I don't have like pot to put me to sleep, or to deal with my pain. I'm going to have to take pain meds that I don't want to take. And then at the same time, like I'm going to have to, you know, suffer through this, at the same time without vaping anything good, you know. But I did. Like I managed to I vaped through the whole thing. I managed to smoke my medical pot through the whole thing. And, the little bit that I had to deal without wasn't so bad,
Mm.
but, and then by the time I was able to do everything again, I was able to go fill my prescription and do what I needed to do. And so it just worked out. But that quarantine, thinking about like quarantining for 5 days as the CDC recently changed, their standpoint, I don't think that's right. I think that like, yeah, okay, maybe you're not it's not active in your system that way in a period of 5 days, but I don't trust that still, because any quarantine that we've done over the whole history of human, interaction with viruses and disease has been a 14-day quarantine just by standard. You know what I mean?
I just don't think the CDC knows what to say anymore.
Yeah, I feel like my symptoms didn't kick in until like maybe 5 days into having been exposed. You know what I mean? And then the symptoms didn't really go away until the 12th or 14th day when we
Yeah.
tested negative, and we took a an at-home test, and both Allie and I tested negative. Her mom tested positive at that point. She was feeling no symptoms at all except for like the sinus infection symptoms.
Yeah,
So,
and she didn't lose her taste or smell or
no, nothing
anything.
like that. And
She
so,
was super, super, super mild.
but the funny part of getting back my taste was that we didn't have our taste, and my mom got us some Delsum, and I didn't have a cough the entire time after like I found out that I was exposed. I didn't have a cough until the very end, like the tail end of it being over.
It took me 16 days
Mm.
since I was exposed to start to feel better. And on the 17th day is when I tested negative with an at home COVID test. So how can in 5 days
And I didn't get my
can you go back?
results for like what, 5 or 6 days.
Yours took a long time, and I think it's because they wanted to see your culture grow, because mine showed up like that, and like they probably wanted to see yours grow because they said that PCR tests are so sensitive.
Right,
Because like we scheduled my mom for a PCR test like 2 weeks after we all had supposedly had it,
right.
and her
After it was over.
PCR test, and she tested negative on the antigen test
Right,
at home, but her PCR test said she was positive. And it's like we looked it up, and they said if you had COVID or any form of COVID, PCR tests for a very long time after you're done having an active infection will still show up positive, because it's so sensitive. There could be like dead virus like cells that are an active infection but are still showing up on the test. That's how like sensitive they are, they said.
right.
Hmm.
So
I think
I
that's really important to, that honestly, I think we talked about before when we were in Connecticut, back
mhm,
in, what was it, November,
July.
July. Yeah. Oh, I'm
July.
thinking November and then July. But the COVID vaccine, I remember you pulled up that website where they were talking about the COVID vaccine side effects. And I think they really need to they do that in New Jersey in a way, but it's a little bit different from the way that, it's done, with the vaccine side effects. Like there really isn't a place to tell people where you have what your side effects are. I
Mm,
know New Jersey has a daily check-in on their app, which I highly recommend. They have a lot of places and really good resources for information for help. If you live in New Jersey, get the app because it really gives you a fast way to get to those. And which I've
mhm,
never seen organization from the state like they have in this, in this time, like this. I think that's probably one of the best things they ever did. But at the same time, you have to be able to report your symptoms when you do find out you have COVID. And I think
mhm,
that's really important that those symptoms are cataloged because, like we've been saying, symptoms are different for everybody. As to where, like you said, like you had a little bit of a headache, but it was from coughing, as to where like I didn't have coughing the entire time until the tail end of, when I was getting better, when I was on the upswing.
mm.
And so yeah, I was saying about the Delsum. The funny thing is when we got our taste back, Allie tried it and she was like, "Oh, that's nasty." And I'm like, "But you can't taste anything, so how is it nasty?" So I took a big old swig and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't taste the thing." And then there's a little bit left in the cup. I'm like, "See, I'll even like clean out the cup." So I take the little bit left in the cup and all of a sudden I start to be able to taste it. And I'm like, "Oh God, like, oh, cough
It was like the
medicine.
switch
No,
just turned back on, huh?
what happened? Like, no, what? I need more COVID, so I can't taste this
Uh,
anymore." Oh, like,
I don't even think it's not that I couldn't taste it, but you could always like sense medicine in your mouth, I feel like.
oh, I
It
at
was like
that first
almost
like swig, I didn't even
psychosomatic.
get it.
ah,
Like it's,
Yeah,
you
it
know
could be
it's medicine, so you
psychosomatic.
know it's gonna taste gross, so you just
yeah.
already go
You just
into
prepare
it.
yourself for it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's kind of what it was like. Like I literally had a bottle of Pedialyte with a straw in it,
Yeah.
and all I could taste out of that Pedialyte, it tasted like I was drinking salt water.
Oh wow.
Oh,
And but I was just like, I gotta get like electrolytes in somehow. I didn't have any Gatorade, so the next best thing was the Pedialyte we had from when my sister, we were trying to get her to do that. So
Right.
um
I mean,
I was like,
Pedialyte
might as
is
well
a really
use
good
it.
thing to get your electrolytes going too.
I was
Um,
like, might as well use it. So that's what I tried to do. I
yeah.
don't think I
yeah,
finished a whole
definitely.
bottle though, because it's very salty.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, for me, it came in a wave. Like I felt like I lost some sense of taste or whatever, but by the next day, I didn't feel the same way anymore. So
Really.
Mm.
it's weird because here's what I mainly was eating while I was in Florida. Fruits, right? Because we were we were juicing things, I was basically eating like I was basically eating like a vegan. You know, like I can't call myself a vegan or a vegetarian because I still eat, you know, because I still eat meat on occasion, but I have,
Right.
you know, but I have slowed down on that. You know what I'm saying?
Of
But
course.
but I was eating acai bowls.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
Those so
couldn't finish
good.
the whole thing because that's when I was starting to feel, you know, that's when I was starting to feel sick. But the other thing was every other thing that I was eating, you know, for dinner, everything was hot, like hot noodle bowls and stuff like that, hot soups, stuff, you know, things of that nature. And then later on, I just went back to my veggie burger, you know, like my veggie burgers and stuff. Like I didn't feel like I completely lost my sense of taste, except for that one, you know, like that one day.
Oh wow.
Right.
And that that was and that to me was interesting. I believe my sister went through that too, because she'll tell you what
Right.
she went through with her second battle with COVID is nothing like the first.
Oh yeah.
You know, is nothing like the first. So we tried to so we assessed, you know, we assessed the whole thing
Now,
afterwards. It's like, did
did she
we?
say that it was an easier time the second time, or?
Oh, dude, I was looking at her and it seemed easier.
Yeah.
The only thing that seemed to be a constant was the congestion and the coughing. But she was outside. She was, you know, in the balcony is you know, there's glass around, you know, around the balcony, so no, you know, so like no worries there. We're on the top floor. She's, you know, chilling outside, laptop on, doing what she's got to do, you know,
Yeah.
taking meetings and stuff like that. And she was taking care of us, and she's pregnant, so she's doing all this stuff, and she looks at us like, is this what being a mom is gonna be like when it happens? I'm like, yeah, probably. You know, like she's and we're like, yeah, this is preparing you right there because she got a few more months to go.
Yeah.
So
I
it
think the thing that I feel like, I'm sorry to cut you off,
it's
Kyle.
cool.
I
It's
think
cool.
the thing is that the one thing that you can be confident in is that COVID affects every single person different.
Yep.
Yes.
There is not one person that had exactly how I had COVID, or exactly like how Keith had COVID, or how you had COVID, or
Mm.
how my mom had her version of COVID, whatever that was. Like,
Right.
there is no two ways that people had, like, yeah, maybe some symptoms were similar, like
Yep.
there was similar, like headaches, everyone had a headache, but like the level of those symptoms are different per person.
Mm.
So I feel like that's the one fact out of this entire pandemic that we've gotten from everybody, was that it affects everyone different, but yet they don't preach that. They
Exactly.
preach
I
that
did want
it's
to.
one, like, you, if you get it, you're going to get it exactly like this, and if you have comorbidities, you're going to end up in the hospital on a vent and whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is true for people. That, I'm not taking that away, because
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, we had the same variant. It wasn't like it was a different variant, or like we got a good strain of it where we weren't that sick, because you know, like I was saying, our friends had the same exact variant, the same strain we had. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? We all got it together, and
and they
so
lost
and
somebody,
they
a
lost
member of their
somebody.
family.
Exactly, they lost somebody, and it was a unfortunately in the medical state we're in, and this job shortage that's a whole nother thing in itself.
That's a whole nother
Um,
video.
you know, it seems to be in the way we are right now. There's just not enough help, and once you enter the hospital, at some point they look at you more of a statistic than a person.
Well,
And I
yeah,
know you had
that is.
mentioned that there was some really messed up issues when a family member was in the hospital.
He never mentioned that. That was
No,
private.
no, no. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying though. That's you know there was some
Well,
issues there, and
because
it
we
could
have
be
experience
argued.
with that.
It could be argued that they weren't short staffed because of the job shortages, the staff shortages, whatever.
It's staff shortages for real. Like going back to to schooling
Right.
there. over here there was a teacher shortage,
Right.
right? So they would, like they would encourage people to stay, to stay home and do like, like virtual learning, or be like, okay, we until we sort this out, then we can't have them, we can't have them in school.
Right.
But and but then, um, I'm like, okay, obviously, number one, teachers don't get paid enough, and
Right.
this is a whole,
Obviously.
and this is a whole other thing they got to deal with now. They got to deal with kids from like kindergarten up, with these different. Okay, are they going to have the do they are they going to have masks? Or is it going to be an issue with the mask? With the kids, I don't see there being, with the little kids, I don't see there being an issue. You know, but once again, I'm not a parent. This is just stuff that I've heard, or stuff that I have talked about with friends that have, that have kids of their own. They've, they've had issues with the, with some of them have had issues with the vaccine. They've gotten the vaccines, but then their kids are having like adverse effects from the vaccine.
Right.
And I'm like, what else are they? What else is in their system that's not agreeing with this, or that's, that the system is trying to fight off. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Exactly.
And it's, and that is the that's the like.
Oh, well, dang. Hang on, guys. We're having some technical difficulties here. Uh, we'll be right back here. Hang on one moment.
Is he still?
What the heck?
Yeah, my bad. I had a little issue there.
Ah,
Um,
I gather.
yeah,
are we still live though?
we are still live. Here we go.
Okay.
Let me go back to our screen here. I just have to find it here. Boom, there we are. All right, let me make sure we are still rolling. Everybody say something.
Hello.
All right,
Rubber baby monkey bumpers.
perfect. All right, so we are still rolling. We are good to go. All right. Anyways, so as I was saying, yeah, I think, or no, as you were saying, Kyle, I
Yeah,
think.
I was just going on a whole thing about the, about how they're dealing with it over in my state when it comes to when it comes to schooling. I'm not saying every I'm not saying every school is doing that. I'm just seeing concerned moms talking about the issues that they're having keeping their kids in school, or either keeping them at home, even if, because now they've rolled out the vaccine for kids of certain ages. You know what I'm saying?
Of
So it's like,
course.
you know what, now that they've gotten the vaccine, some schools are being very, I would say yes, they're taking precautions, but also the kids are missing, like in some cases, weeks of school. You know, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's happening everywhere here, but where I have heard that it is happening, it's like, yo, what are you gonna do? You don't want them to. They don't even want. Some don't even want them to virtual learn. You
Yeah.
know,
That's the
and
thing. I think I'm not a parent either. And just by talking, because I still have cousins in school, and hearing them say like, oh, we were on virtual learning for 3 weeks, or we had to have a day because there was a lack of teachers and lack of staff.
Right.
I don't know why our governor took away the option for virtual learning. I don't know if that was just purely
took it
because of
away.
You know,
yeah, he
I
took it
really feel
away.
like
Like,
that had a lot to do with the budget, because a lot of schools were getting pressure from the Board of Education that if they didn't open in-person learning, and go from remote to in-person, that the schools themselves wouldn't get money they needed to make repairs and keep up the schools.
which I guess I understand that, but I guess the point that I was trying to make was like, as a parent, well, maybe I'm just so pro-choice that this, like, I feel like your parent should have a choice if they want to send their kids
I think
into
that's
school
true,
right
and they would
now.
very much benefit that way because there are some kids who don't benefit from, they benefit more from in-person learning, but
Hmm.
there are some kids who have really, really been able to hold it together during the, remote learning sessions and
Yeah.
have done really well. And I think it's those kids that should be given that option,
But
because of course there are, like I said, there's different ways that people learn, and in-person learning may be just the best way for some kids, but that's a perfect way to cut down your staff, change things up so you don't need that much money to budget towards that, and you can afford to pay your teachers better.
yeah, it's but the other thing is, in order to figure out who would be better suited to learn in what atmosphere, you and you'd have to what do an evaluation like.
I think that's, they do that though in schools too, especially when
Oh,
kids
they
transfer schools,
do.
they do evaluations to see, what they know and what they don't know as to where they can put those kids in, different classes based on, what they do already know. I think that's an important
Yeah,
thing
but
too.
the standards are constantly changing,
That is
Yeah.
right?
true.
Like I remember, okay, there has been an argument about standardized testing, at least in my state for years now, right?
Right.
Same
And
here.
every time we had to take a standardized test, and I thought I passed, the passing grade went up like yearly. So I'm
Oh
like,
wow.
what is the point of all these tests? You're gonna stress us out. You know what I'm saying?
Opening the bag of
You're stressing us out. The
I
teachers are
know.
stressed out because they have to deal with, like, in some cases 30 plus students. Oh, and okay. And on a higher level, some colleges aren't really doing well when it comes to teaching during COVID. There's
Yeah.
there has been a argument going on in Howard University. I was seeing that from um, some students who happen to be TikTok creators that I follow. They
right.
talked about the conditions that they're in during the pandemic on campus,
Oh,
and what it's like having to, trying to be safe, but being being in the same lecture hall as like 100 plus students in one room. So
right.
it's, and it doesn't, and they don't see that, they don't think that the administration cares. Now I'm getting, I'm getting that information from, from the, kids that actually go there, and I spoke to someone, an alum from there too, get their opinion on it. They had no idea that this was going on to begin with.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and like I said, they're an alum, but they're still involved with the school.
Right.
So
Well,
it's
usually I know, like, when you have alums, they usually really do try to keep in touch with the school and what's going on
yeah,
there, and try to make it better too.
yeah.
I think
So
it's just everything. It's like, COVID affects everything:
yeah,
school, your mental health, your physical health, your finances. Like, it's affecting everything. Like, so, we could sit here all day and go on and on and on because there is really that much stuff to talk about in regards to this pandemic.
truth.
Um, and it's just, we've been sharing our opinions, and I'm just curious to hear other people's opinions, like you said, Kyle, too. Like, you follow people on TikTok or things, and they share things, and same here. There's things that I see on TikTok, or if people make posts on social media like Facebook, and some things are, even like you said, babe, tinfoil hat, crazy, out of bounds things.
Yeah. I mean, this has
And
really opened up people's minds to possibilities that, some of them don't make sense at all, but, some of
Yeah,
them make sense in a very, very hanging by a thread kind of way.
yeah,
But then
some of
again,
them are not
it really
so.
does open up people's thoughts, to explore their own like tinfoil hat, theories. Um, and I think, at this point in time, where we are as a society and what we've been through in the last few years has just pushed people to not give a crap about whatever they're saying,
Or they
or
just,
speak
or
first
they
and
think
think
Well,
they're,
later.
I think also the advent of social media had to do with that way before this, way before this happened.
Right, of course. That,
You
like
know
I
what I mean?
said too, the news cycle just changes so fast, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I think everyone thinks they're an expert in a certain topic
Yes, which
nowadays.
I will tell you, I will be the first to tell you, I am not an expert on a lot of things,
right?
but
Neither am I. I think the
Yeah.
thing of it is you just, regardless of anything, you need to still remain kind. And you know, we everybody has a difference of opinion.
yeah.
And you're allowed to have a different opinion. You are allowed to have your own thoughts. You
Mm-hmm.
are allowed to have your own thoughts, but you are not allowed to be a bully or to spread hate. So
You
even
can't
if you
dictate.
don't agree, yeah, and you
Yeah.
can't put your feelings and your beliefs onto other people if
Mm-hmm.
they have a
It's not even
different
just
opinion than you.
right, exactly. Everybody's free to share their opinion,
Of
but we don't
course.
have to share it in a negative way.
No.
We can be kind to each other and express our opinions and keep it civil, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't have
I
high
mean,
hopes for that
there's
because
the old adage, everybody opinions are like assholes, everybody has one and they stink.
yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
Well, I
but
think it's just
I
even.
think in all honesty, I think opinions are and differences of opinions are great ways to have conversation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
But just you got to keep it, positive, not positive, but kind and respectful.
Exactly, exactly.
Respectful.
And so,
Respectful.
everybody out there, that's what I ask that you do today. Keep this conversation polite, keep it respectful to your fellow brethren and sisters, out there. Um, and I think that is where we are going to end this for today. I'm sure we're going to have plenty more to talk about, which we
Yep.
will probably do another live soon, just to keep things up to date. If that
Yep.
sounds good with you guys, I think we should
That sounds fine.
definitely
That sounds
schedule it
fine with
again
me.
soon.
Maybe
Yeah.
Um,
next time we can add in we can get another
I,
opinion from someone new.
yeah, I
Absolutely, I
have
would
a guest.
highly want to do that.
You
Um,
would highly want to do that.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so if you want to be on our little podcast that has no name,
Right, and no viewers.
um, and no viewers, email one of us.
Right, exactly. You can
Links are
hit up
all down
Kyle at what is it?
below.
What is it, Kyle? At Kyle Eric.
At Kyle Eric 3233 at gmail.com. You can reach me there. I'm also on Instagram, and I almost forgot I'm also on TikTok. I'm not that much of an active user, but I'm also on TikTok, all under the same username.
Gotcha.
So that's Kyle
You
Eric
could
3233.
you could reach me through Keith.
YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, through
Yep.
Um,
YouTube.
or actually, I will. You know what? I'll leave an
Leave
email.
an
Do you have
email. Yeah.
the? Do you want to leave the paper and ink email on here so that way people can reach us through
Um.
there? Because I don't have a YouTube email set up yet that I actually check.
Yeah. It's paper and ink publishing at gmail.com.
Paper N, the letter N,
Yep.
ink publishing at
Yep. At
gmail.com.
gmail.com.
All right.
That was like my old one that I haven't changed it to the editing thing because I have too many emails. So
Hey, it is what it is, man. It makes it nice and easy, though, at least to have one.
Yeah.
So, anyways, if you guys want to get in touch with us and jump on the show in our next live, or if you just want to be kind of shrouded in mystery as to who you are, we can do that as well. So feel free to join the conversation below, leave your comments and your side of the story as well. Please try to keep that polite as well, and also check this episode out on the Brain. Is it, or is it going to be an A
it's
for
gonna be on
AFA,
A
This is
for
or?
this is definitely gonna be A for Abled conversation.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts at, for the A for Abled show and podcast. And we will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys soon.
bye.
Bye, guys.